Hello guys and welcome to Phenomenon, where today we'll be exploring ageism experienced by older women through a feminist lens. My name's Olivia Maudsley and I'm going to be applying my knowledge and deep analysis of 2022 horror The Substance and pairing this with media theory on representations of diversity. How this can be analysed from multiple approaches looking at both positive and negative effects of a multicultural drift. Analysing how older women can become exploited in society when both multiculturalism and neoliberalism intersect. Markets profiting from their discrimination as a false image by pushing the narrative that they support these older women, capitalising on their intolerance and exclusion, both historically and unfortunately today. So I was originally inspired to explore ageism in femininity whilst watching Mars Kaufman and Howard Morris's series Grace and Frankie. So it's about two women in the 70s whose husbands end up having an affair together, allowing them to build a solid friendship. They together create a vibrator business targeted at older women who we know the sex industry does not target whatsoever. Older women masturbate too. Collectively, they overcome modern day discrimination, demonstrating the challenges women face who are postmenopausal. They are pushed into the modern dating industry, attempting to adapt to choice, lifestyle, and the way they would like to explore their sexuality through a neo-feminism approach to modern heterosexual relationship balance. We see this when Grace finds intimacy through a non-sexual manner of dancing in the living room with a date. But what's really important about this is that it's on her own terms. It represents how intimacy can be through other things than sex. What's important to note is that their last experiences with dating would have been with their previous husbands, where traditional values and men's and women's roles in a marriage will have restricted them from the freedom of expressing their needs and wants. This is where we can apply intersectional analysis, because not only have Grace and Frankie been discriminated in their past because they are women, now because of their husband's actions, they are having to face discrimination by not fitting the dating world's modern image. They're left to navigate this together, and this can be depicted through humour, and by doing so, this breaks stigmatisation and it allows the information to be a lot more digestible to an audience, particularly with older women's sexual desires. Now, Grace and Frankie is an amazing show, but I did want to shed some light on something that was a little bit dark. So The Substance is a modern graphic horror that was released in 2024, and it features a successful television aerobics instructor, Elizabeth Sparkle, who is let go of by her oppressive boss, Harvey, in hopes to find a younger, hotter replacement. After being let go and getting into a car crash, Elizabeth is offered a programme and a medical procedure, The Substance. Now, The Substance promotes an alternative embodiment of youth stemming from your own DNA. So, sceptical at first, Elizabeth decides to take the substance when life as an older woman, being discriminated against, gets lonely and too much. The realities of the substance are way worse than imaginable. This becomes clear once Elizabeth's alternative embodiment of Sue is introduced. Both Sue and Elizabeth are completely objectified by manager Harvey. At the end where the New Year's Eve show takes place, we see Harvey explain to his white middle-class friends how she is my most beautiful creation, referencing Sue. Even at the ending of The Substance, the film demonstrates how Sue is only employed for her image, which should have no correlation to her employability as an aerobics instructor. The hatred and discrimination that Elizabeth endures for hitting the 50 mark throughout the film is highlighted more so when she does take the substance. This is enabled through Sue's presence. When Sue/Elizabeth, neighbour, comes knocking on the door at 49 minutes in, we hear, "God damn it, lady, come on." And he continues to shout until Sue answers the door. And after that, he retracts all of his aggression. Unable to speak due to being infatuated. And this is followed by, "I've got a big hammer." Interesting enough, he was not prepared to help Elizabeth. He was trying to belittle her. She could have probably used the help more so than Sue. The term lady also suggests connotations of outdated gender norms, that she is fragile despite attacking the fact he thought she was doing some independent work. It could also suggest that he feels threatened by his own fragile masculinity, that this older woman is doing something without the help of a man, therefore using such a patronising and socially distant term. The context in which he uses the term also creates a narrative of belittling Elizabeth and putting her in a place. She's a delicate older woman, suggesting her behaviour is erratic and unusual for her age. Another encounter where Elizabeth's poor treatment is highlighted through Sue is when she re-encounters the biker that she slept with the night before. Elizabeth accidentally runs into him when he has gone to collect his bike. In disbelief, she freezes, to which he responds threateningly, revving his engine to suggest he'll run her over if she does not move. Reflecting on their previous interaction from the night before, there is a complete shift in dynamic. So the biker appears extremely timid and Sue dominates control by being on top when initiating intercourse. Everything's on her terms, and when she leaves because of a nosebleed, he's so concerned. The substance opens the conversation of why middle-aged women and above might face discrimination, and it highlights one of the main reasons being reproductive value, and secondly, the intersectional analysis of being a woman in an economically and socially dominated patriarchy. In the beginning of the substance, we see Elizabeth having to use the men's bathroom. This scene is so important because initially there's a close-up shot of the women's toilets being out of order, which really foreshadows the entire message of the film. It symbolises the lack of consideration for a female's bodily autonomy, despite Elizabeth being the star, the face, the prophet for the studio for years. Yet the audience quickly realises she's trapped in a male-dominated industry. Behind her financial successful life is Harvey, her manager. Elizabeth then overhears a conversation from Harvey where he says, "I don't care if we have to see every fucking young girl in this fucking town. We need a young, we need a hot. How the old bitch has been able to stick around this long, that's a mystery to me. Oh, Oscar winner my ass. I don't give a fuck what we promised her. This is network TV, not a fucking charity." And finalises his conversation with, "Did you know that a woman's fertility starts to decrease about the age of 25? Ironically, Harvey's age is not spoken about once, yet it is heavily implied that he's the same age as Elizabeth. Textual analysis from this conversation alone implies how Elizabeth is seen to have expired to Harvey and completely disposable now that she is no longer capable of reproducing. The phrase "stick around" being a mystery to Harvey suggests that she is not only unwanted, but she's not understanding her unwantedness despite being promised further things in her career. It also suggests that Harvey pictures Elizabeth to have perished and refers to her as a charity as though she needs help. This complexly contradicts Elizabeth's character, as she is portrayed as introverted, successful and timid, particularly at this point in the film. Perspiration of Elizabeth's character is then continuously symbolised using food. Food's massive through the substance. Food that was consumed by Elizabeth is quickly disregarded by Sue. It's captured in a graphic and grotesque manner where we often see Elizabeth losing control, symbolic for breaking societal standards of diet culture and mirroring the horror society casts on the female appetite. Although Sue and Elizabeth are one, they go after each other, which reflects modern-day womanhood. The patriarchy has left women to devalue themselves and other women around them, despite being from the same playing field and suffering the same treatment. Putting women up against each other is often found through bullying on social media and in the workplace. As horrific as a substance may be, it is a true metaphor of the treatment of not only women in the industry, but the horrific realities of what women face with age in society. So I did want to look at something a little bit more positive. Tenor, the urinary and fecal incontinence brand, has coined the phrase #LastLonelyMenopause, and it demonstrates the challenges women face when experiencing the menopause. The advert that produced narrates the contrasting experiences of a mother-daughter relationship where the daughter has experienced puberty and the mother is struggling with menopause. Once we see the mother break down and confess the troubles of the menopause, life becomes a lot lighter once she got that support. It's not a really long advert, but I think it's really impactful. So if you would like to look at that, it is obviously in my bibliography below. Another consequence of discrimination in age is, so TikTok demonstrates a multitude of content on the topic of older and middle-aged women bullying younger women in the workplace. This is often disregarded as jealousy, but I do think this needs to be analysed in more depth as to why. Through discourse analysis of the videos, the use of age comparison, beauty standards, and fashion are usually the main topics of the insults. So examining the title of Jessica De Silva _994's video, POV, "You're on a break and a jealous old woman who you work with joins you." By selecting the description of old, this automatically suggests negative connotations around age, something which has been hegemonically embedded solely when speaking about women. When old is placed before a patriarchal term, it's often viewed as sweet and lonely, in contrary to when it's used in femininity. This is usually portrayed as bitter, hostile, erratic, and lonely. Lonely in this context, however, is used against older women as though they are at fault. So starting with the statistics, and this is, the gender pay gap was not legally acted of up until 2004, and that's just acted on. So the laws didn't change on this until 2008, where the Equality Bill 2008 was introduced and took accountability for both gender discrimination in the workplace and age discrimination. So that 61% of people reported the perception of career expectations decreasing with age. 63% of respondents stated that workers between the age of 30 to 39 years old had the best promotion prospects, and with only 2% citing that 50-year-olds are above, and then 30% of reporters stated that there should be more careers advice for older women. Looking at that now, we can reflect upon past injustices and apply them today. Younger female workers in 2008 never had the opportunities younger women have today, and younger women have more confidence to speak on these issues. So it is a massive injustice, and it isn't fair, and it might answer a few questions as to why this kind of power shift happens with older women and younger women. So I hope you've enjoyed my really quick analysis. And if there's any questions, make sure to comment them down below. So thank you, bye.